I'm here today with Brett Pyle, and Brett's flown in from South Carolina, and it's fantastic to have you here today, Brett.
It's been great.
I had just had the pleasure of hearing Brett speak to my key group here in Vancouver, and his presentation and talk today, it was actually more of a talk than a presentation. He doesn't do PowerPoint presentations, just
boring.
Good old-fashioned flip charts and some awesome movie clips. We'll get into that in a minute, but Brett's presentation and talk today was around transformational leadership. But before we dive into transformational leadership, I'd like to know a little bit about your background. Maybe if you can take a minute or so to tell us how you ended up getting to where you are today, Brett.
So and it's got to be the CNN version.
Yeah, it's like the 1 minute.
Which is always hard. But you ask a speaker to give something in 1 minute and they can't.
That's right, I'll cut you off.
Yeah, okay, beautiful. Well, I had a long corporate career, and at the end of that corporate career, I started a Vistage group. So Vistage is like tech, only in the U.S. And it was a peer advisory board of groups of CEOs, and I would lead them and coach them. And after working with them for 3 or 4 years, my CEOs were saying, Brett, you ought to go be a speaker. And I remembered thinking, well, what are they talking about? I don't have anything to say. And then
that's not true.
Well, I took them at their word, and I thought, yeah, I do have a talk. And I came up with a talk, and demand for it exploded. So much so that about 10 years into that work, I stopped sharing altogether. And today I speak. And I speak on 2 particular topics. One on finding your purpose or your extraordinary why, as I call it. Who are you and why are you here? And then this one that we did today on transformational leadership, and how did you become the leader you are today, who helped you, who guided you, and where might you need to transform from where you are today to become an even more effective and better leader than you were before. And how do you effectively lead other people to and through seasons of transformation, places where suddenly they see themselves and what is possible for them doing that is vastly bigger than anything that they had imagined beforehand. And so that's today's program is the one on transformational leadership.
Mm-hmm. And there was plenty of transformation taking place today, that's for sure.
Well, they're a great group.
There was one of the exercises you had us do was standing around the room and doing some categorization, if you will. That's probably not the right word, but into 4 different categories. Could you talk about the 4 main categories that you discussed today with the group?
Yeah, happy to. So, lots of leadership books on where you lead from and what makes for a good leader and what doesn't. I like starting at who we are as human beings. And as humans, we're really essentially a combination of 4 different unique parts. We're physical beings, we have physical bodies, we can create physical things. But we're also intellectual beings. Yeah? We're minds that can think, and those minds can give us skills and talents and things we can do in the world around us. Those 2 kind of seem complete, but they're not really, because we're also emotional beings. We're hearts that can feel. And while those 3 seem complete, they're not, because they would be missing the fact that also as humans we're spiritual. We have a relationship with a conscience or the spirit within us. So we're 4-dimensional beings: body, mind, soul, and spirit. And as leaders, we tend to have at least one of those that is particularly our well-defined go-to way of leading. We're down in the trenches physical leaders, or we're intellectual leaders and thought leaders, or we're emotional leaders capable of giving speeches that get people feeling things, or we're spiritual leaders and we're leading by the truth that we're putting out into the world, and people follow us because they know they should. And so most of us have one of those 4 that's our default way of leading and being. And as we go through life, we also transform. And we used to be here, and because of the challenges we faced, we've developed some more capacity in some other areas. And so the exercise we do today in this program is just helping people figure out what their primary is, and then giving them a little bit of access to how to lead from some of these other areas differently, because they all have their strengths and their weaknesses. And if we overplay any of them, we can actually be canceling out the gift that comes along with the type of leader that we are.
Do you ever see in organizations where there's too many of one particular type and there's nobody or very few of another type, and what sorts of problems that might cause and how we might be able to fix that, so to speak?
Yeah, that's actually a lot more common than you would think. And I think part of the reason for that is that we have a tendency to recruit in our own image. And we like people that are just like us. And so physical and intellectual organizations tend to recruit a lot of physical and intellectual leaders. And yet we could be missing then the capacity to lead people emotionally or spiritually. So there can be deficits. And oftentimes the best solutions we come to as leaders are from using all of who we are. And if we don't have that particular capacity within our organization, we could be missing some pretty big things. And the TED Talk that I gave 4 or 5 years ago talks about how we really do, especially as we're encountering decisions that can have a major impact on ourselves, our families, the world around us, that if we're not leading from all of who we are and involving all 4 parts of our being, we in the organizations that we lead could end up in some pretty dark places. And so, yeah, plenty of examples like that, mostly because we tend to like people that are just like us.
Yeah. Cool. Now that's a really valuable point, and certainly something when we look into our organizations and we see that we've got too many of one particular type, that's a huge area of opportunity for us in our organizations to have a more balanced structure and team members.
Yeah, well,
you've got, I know today you shared a few video clips and tell us about who that was of and why.
Yeah, so a lot of it has to do with the fact that, I was born a movie fan. I've got a mom and a dad were Broadway actors and actresses, and so there was a lot of drama in the home in which I was raised. So I'm a big believer that nothing really gets people feeling as well as a movie clip does. So I have a license with a motion picture licensing corporation that enables me to show movies.
Oh, wow.
And what I have learned is that immediately in a relatively short period of time, a movie clip like from Amistad, which was where we started today, and then we moved into a few movie clips from Dead Poet Society, because nobody did leadership development quite as well as Robin did while he was with us. It's a movie clip like that that illustrates a point, gets us feeling, but then also serves as an illustrative example that we can then draw from and pull some lessons out of. And frankly, they're a whole lot more interesting than a long, boring PowerPoint slide deck or something like that. If you get people talking and feeling things through movies, it's just a great forum.
Wow. Now, you have another talk that we didn't get a chance to hear today, but
next year
we'll have to get you back. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that was the first talk I came up with, and it was around this idea of what's your purpose, or I call it your extraordinary why. Who are you and why are you here? And that talk is a big, deep emotion. You thought today was emotional and touchy-feely. Wait till you get this one. But it gets us reflecting on this thing called, is there a singular reason, a purpose that I'm here that ties together all the other missions I go on, all the other roles I fulfill? Is a broad enough umbrella that it captures all of it, but it's also specific enough that it captures who I am at the level of my identity, because each of us are created uniquely. So that's about a half-day program along with this one on finding your purpose. And I did it so many times, people are like, Brett, this is like drinking from a fire hose. Can we do this longer and slower over a more lengthy period of time and digest it a little bit more slowly? So earlier this year, I created the online course that people can now take that over a 6-week period of time, and they can take it in community with other leaders that can listen and help them define their purpose.
So now you're running that as a 5-day, like a week-long offsite?
Well, that's two things. So I am doing a week-long offsite with an organization called the Modern Elder Academy, fantastic organization for helping people through transitions, and that's coming up in Santa Fe soon. But I'm also now running it as an online course. It's 6 weeks, 24 lessons, they're recorded, and then once a week during each of those 6 weeks, I do group coaching with people that are involved in the program so that they can experience community. Hey, we live out our purpose in community. Mm-hmm. So what better place to learn and discern your purpose than within community? And sometimes other people can see us more clearly than we can see ourselves.
Fantastic. Brett, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
That'd be my website, Brett Pyle, B-R-E-T-T, Pyle, P-Y-L-E.com, and all of the resources kind of flow out from there.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Chris, great being with you again.
Brett Pyle on Transformational Leadership. Thank you very much.